Yes, so I'll be discussing my opinions and my experiences and sharing my perspective on the subject of masculinity. As I say from part one, I don't have a clue about the subject. I've always grown up identifying things as being the mark of a masculinity, not until probably a couple years ago that I kind of get the concept that, it's not the things that you attain, the tangible things that you attain, or the importance isn't on the tangibility of the things that you possess when it comes to masculinity. So I'll be sharing my perspective on that. Not feeling too well, under the weather a little bit, but as we always say, that's what you get when you're listening to this show. You get this nasal voice and this very gorgeous face. That's just me keeping it mild, Anyways, so with that being said, I'd also like to clear up two things I said in the last episode about me being a sexist and a misogynist. I don't mean it as strongly as it might come off. I mean, like, for example, that I have ingrained stereotypes, opinions that, certain things best fit women. Women should do certain things. So it's not the side of, I hate women kind of a thing. It's more of the stereotypes or the prejudices that I might have towards roles and stuff. Not that I still have them or not working on them, but I just am sexist and misogynistic to some extent. So hopefully that clear up any of the shock factor from episode or part number 1. If not, then I don't know. And when I said the contempt thing or disdain or stuff like that, just don't hold it against me. Yeah, it's just whatever. It is what it is, yeah? It is what it is. Right, so without further ado, let's get right into the show. If you haven't subscribed already, smash that. Oh, that's the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, So we are back. Yeah, or I'm back. Yes, I'm practicing for when I get my guests and my co-hosts onto the show, yeah? One can hope that I can upgrade the settings enough to accommodate such people. But, a lovely guest, a fan of the show, saw the microphone that I was working with, and, that it's a he as well. Wonderful guy. If I could say it any better, the best person that you could ever interact with in your entire life. He saw the equipment that I was working with and, thought that he should gift me with a microphone, a new microphone. So I have a new microphone. It have a pop filter thingy, but I'm not using that right now because I'm not sure how it will look in the film. But, once the guests come on, I probably will add it as a thing. But yeah, you might be wondering who this lovely guy is. Special to me, dear to me. It's none other than your boy himself, Joel Ramsey. It's me. I did it. Yes, I'm that guy. Yeah. All right. Remember that, ladies. Phone number is 926. Whatever. So, getting into the video. Next question that we have on display, the next question that we have to discuss, to run through is, how do you become a man of value? Very tough question. And it's basically what I was saying before, or highlighted in the intro. But Nick says, define first what you value. This question may lead one to think that the value needs to be externally driven. How do I become a man of value to him or to Tim? But that would be an ingenuine approach to self-improvement based on another's value structure that I may not agree with. it's the wrong place on the Constitution. It's the wrong place on the it's the wrong place on the continuum for me. But if I work to first become a man I value, then I'm internally driven towards those goals or these goals, and those in turn increase my value. If I consider myself valuable first, that will resonate into my actions, which will in turn make me a valuable person to someone else. Interesting, but definitely right in terms of asking for the definition of value. So yeah, that's a good, yeah, fairly, all right response. Yeah, balance. It never got into it. It wasn't specific. We just, skim the surface. But honestly, though, the podcast show, we don't skim the surface. We, whatever. So Justin says, give more than you take. Every interaction, every relationship, every time. I don't think it's an attainable goal, but it is a worthy pursuit. So he says to give more than you take. That's how you become a man of high value. In every asset, you give more than you take. Larry says, it all starts and ends with being honest, knowing yourself, loving yourself, forgiving yourself, learning and growing daily, challenging your convictions and beliefs, and changing them when they no longer line up to your perceived truth. Being fearless means being vulnerable. So I think it fly over my head why I mention fearless. So let me read that again. It all starts and ends with being honest. That I can agree with. So Larry's the guy. If you watch me from part 1, you know that Larry, you want to be like Larry. That does sound. Anyways. It all starts and ends with being honest, knowing yourself, loving yourself, forgiving yourself, learning and growing daily, challenging your convictions and beliefs, and changing them when they no longer line up to your perceived truth. Being fearless means being vulnerable. I like the first part, being honest. Yeah. So far, I like in Nick's statement because it not direct, it not, as I said, skimming the surface. Whatever word that properly could be used there, it's probably vague. But that one I like a lot more, and I guess I'll explain why. And Mike is probably my own little and taller, and we pause on that again. I'd like to also apologize for all those improper, I don't know where they came from, but they won't happen again on this episode going forward. So you can hold me to that, right? And I won't even edit them out either. You can hold me to that. Mike says passion plus talent plus meeting needs equals value. So Mike says passion plus your talent plus meeting needs equals value. So the question is, how do you become a man of value? Those opinions and comments were nice. They were, understandable. All of them could make one nice definition. Yeah, it could make one nice definition. Could come together to make a nice definition, I would say. So in reading all of those, the most I would say to follow up on, if you have been following my episodes part after part, you'd know that the beginning of everything for me Not for me. That'd be wrong for me to say for me, because I wouldn't want it to be the beginning of everything. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want God to be the beginning of everything. If I had a choice, as in, I would want to be the beginning of everything, right? And, that's not me being narcissistic. That's just me being honest, though. But the beginning of everything is truth. The beginning of this question, or the fact that we're asking this question, suggests that there is a truth or an answer to that question, and the answer should be true. So, in light of all of that, my answer will obviously be that we first have to define where, the status of man of value would come from. And as I think Nick said, if we, whatever him say, yeah? But based on what I remember him say, if it coming from outside, then whatever him say, I know can pause the video and go back to listen to what him say. But Nick was basically saying that, but my point basically is that God give you a set, as I said before, God give you guidelines, directives as to how to be your best self. As you of yourself, as a baby, you grow up and you need your parents to usher you through life up to a certain point in time. Or not that you need your parents, but you need somebody of more knowledge to usher you through based on the fact that you have limited knowledge, if any. And so God is that adult that ushering us through life, or trying to usher us through life. So there are things that he would dictate that would be necessary, right? And so a man of high value would have to be a man that understands the will of God and is actively implementing those desires that God have for that individual, for the species, for the race, the human population, whatever you want to call it. And I think those things first have to be character based. I think your character first and foremost is important, and I think that's where your parents would have, or that's what, based on how we're raised, based on how we grow, the fact that we can't attain anything until we reach adulthood or some semblance of mobility would mean independence, I should say, would mean that there's something that you have to be developing before you're able to branch off onto your own stuff. And that thing would have to be a character. I think that was what was lacking for me, character development, I would say. I'd say, as I said before, was looking for those things that you could touch and the things that you do. So, for example, like driving a vehicle, owning a vehicle, driving a vehicle is a masculine thing to do, according to society and whatever. And for me, it was difficult to know that there is a perception of owning a vehicle, driving a vehicle, and not driving a vehicle. So there was a pressure that I would put on myself, that I would feel emasculated to be in the position where I don't own a vehicle, don't want to own a vehicle necessarily, ish. And so there are certain things that I thought visibly would mean that you're becoming a man. And so the focus for me wasn't on how to deal with these things, these tangible things, how to get them, how to possess them, how to look after them, that kind of a thing. And no matter how you would tell me, no matter how much teaching I would get, it would go through my ears, come through the next side, I wouldn't care, wouldn't have any desire to work on my character. I was just solely focusing on acquiring things. And I think that's where it is important to first look at the character that you have. You have to be actively the same effort that you put into acquiring a house, acquiring your degree, acquiring your land, your farm, your assets. The same effort that you put into that is the same effort or more that you have to put into developing your character, because your character is what will help you to keep those things ethically, if that's the way to phrase it, because you can still keep them and be lawless and immoral. But I've always said this, and I don't mean it completely, but I think sleeping pills and them something did make for like people that did wicked. And I don't mean that it didn't make, or people that take it wicked. I'm saying I feel like it make for people like politicians and like the super rich people that doing all sort of stuff to people under the quiet. I think it make for them to cope with life, like cope with them conscience. That's a weird little thought I have, because when you acquire certain wealth but your character not up to par, I don't think there's a peace that you have, because you're living a lie, basically. In my opinion, you're living some semblance of a lie. And so you will be unsettled. You will be uncomfortable, I believe, because I'm not rich, nor am I probably wicked, but I'm not rich, so I couldn't say. But you need a good character, and that's what's important. You'd have to know, go and figure out what that good character look like. And first place that you could go is look on Christ as your model for who was an upstanding man, and model that person. Because that's what we're programmed to do. We're programmed to model people. We'll model our parents initially, and then we'll model our peers, and then we'll model those other adults that we encounter as we develop. So we're programmed to model something. So it's important that we model the right thing. So that would be my answer to that question. Hope it sounds like an honest little podcast show response. Yeah. And so the next question is, what defines masculinity? What defines masculinity? To me, it sounds like the same question. To me, it sounds like all these questions are the same, but it's really interesting to hear what these people have to say. So let's hear what they're saying. So Mike again says, I believe masculinity is a virtue in masculine form. I believe masculinity is virtue in a masculine form. There are certain virtues we associate with men, though in truth virtues are for everyone, but there is a way about a man and how he carries out those virtues. For example, courage looks different coming from a male than it does from a female. It's a difficult thing to describe, but you know it when you see it. I can understand what I'm getting at. I think there's a power behind, there's a masculine force and there's a feminine force. I get what I'm saying. Well, I don't know what that was, but I get what I'm saying. I think both persons, depending on your level of soy intake, anyways. So I like that. I like that response. That's interesting. I find it strange that people can come up with answers to these vague questions, but then they're able to pick a point and stick on it. And my brain, like, just all over the place. Anyways, to Nick now, to a lesser extent the above, I think man being this idealized and personalized set of traits, and masculinity may be the expression of these traits. So let me read that again. To a lesser extent, the above. I think man being this idealized set of traits, and masculinity may be the expression of those traits. Okay, so man is a set thing, or is a whatever, I don't know, idealized set, and then put in brackets and personalized. So man is a self or individual, I guess that's what I'm saying. And masculinity is the expression of that male. So that male expression of love, joy, happiness, humility, all of those stuff, I guess. So Justin says masculinity is defined by the way we respond to a given situation. The dictionary defines masculinity as being set by a given society, but I personally think of masculinity as its own immutable force. I think Justin was trying to be like a philosopher here. Yeah, that's what Justin was trying to do. Larry says masculinity in its broadest term comes from a position of power and strength. If you mean courage in place of masculinity, that would reveal itself as standing up for what is right, protecting your loved ones from harm, and doing the right thing in the face of public scorn or condemnation. However, I feel the term masculinity has taken on a negative connotation. Being a tough guy has nothing to do with true masculinity. Masculinity is overused and overhyped. It is an outdated term which ascribes itself as an attribute all males should subscribe to. Being a well-adjusted, healthy male should be the new definition of masculinity. I don't think that definition of masculinity, being the tough guy, will ever be erased. I think that is an abuse of masculinity, to be the biggest person based on your power. In my opinion, I think is an abuse of masculinity. To use your power to dominate and to take control, I think that's an abuse of what makes you masculine, or one of the things that make you masculine. If that makes sense. To me, that don't make sense. But I like these responses. I like them. I think that I agree with masculinity being an expression of certain traits. So how you express your emotions determine masculinity and femininity. So I guess based on what they're saying here, that's what they're alluding to. Your expression of your maleness is masculinity. And that maleness would be your character, I guess, I don't know. I've always seen masculinity as probably, again, as I say, what you possess as a man. How much blocks you can carry up when you're building the house, whether you can shovel up gravel, whether, how much dumpling you can eat. Yeah. So that's, if anybody know me, that's why I think you'll see me being competitive, because I think that's what being on top and being the top male look like to me. So, or that's what I got from masculinity. That's what appealed to me about masculinity, the fact that I could be on top. I think it's very childish. I think it's very childish, but that's what stood out to me. And so I think that's what all quote-unquote minority groups going for. They're going for that being on top mentality. I guess is an expression of power, because they're not trying to, usually groups not trying to be equal. You won't have groups, I don't know, let me skip that. But yeah, that was my expression of masculinity. It was winning, competing, giving your all, but not just giving your all and coming out on top. That was what made you a man. Doing stuff in the most eye-catching way. I don't know. But those things, that's what to me masculinity was. I don't know how to, as one of them said, it's hard to identify it. Femininity, probably it would be easier to define femininity for me. So I'll try and do that. What would femininity look like? Compassionate, soft, gentle. That's what I would probably ascribe to femininity. But at the same time, a man has to be compassionate, and a strong man knows how to be compassionate. So I guess it's the expression of those traits, as was said. I guess it is definitely the expression of those traits. So a man being courageous would be a man putting his life on the line ahead of anybody else's life. So not considering his own life, but being willing to take the fall. That would be courageous. How would that look for females? It could look the same. It could look the same, just that the vessel different, and the way it probably is done as well would also be different. That's what I would think. The expression of your masculinity is different from that of the expression of femininity for the same traits. Could it be the same as an expression? I think it would look weird as a man to be, for example, it would look weird for a man to do a curtsy thingy or to dress the same way as a female. It would look weird on that premise, right? But then at the same time, my personal belief is that dress code isn't masculine or feminine. I do ascribe to attire being masculine or feminine. I think attire is modest or immodest. I don't think they're masculine or feminine. On that note, though, I wouldn't wear stuff that have been used by women because there's a connotation around it that it's feminine. So that's why I wouldn't do it. Also, yeah, I think when you culture a certain way and you go against the culture vindictively, I think there's a different spirit that you inhabit or you play with to make that rebellious decision. So for me, clothing isn't a masculine or feminine thing, in my opinion. A lot of churches might use the argument of God say you shouldn't dress the same as a female or shouldn't dress as, the Exodus or Leviticus or whatever chapter it is that say, basically they use it to say cross-dressing is wrong. But at the same time, that verse has been explained to not be speaking to dress code and more about things pertaining to war. That's another interpretation that I've heard. So women, the concept of women going to war or men sending women to war, one of the reasons why countries never had it was because, or at least so I hear, is because it was a sin back in the day for a woman to go to war. It is a sin for a woman to use items that are war related. So an example of that would be when the lady used the nail to kill the guy in the tent, in that Bible story. She used the nail because it was not moral for a female to use war attire. That's what I hear. That's one of the interpretations that I've heard for that cross-dress in scripture. So it basically saying that women shouldn't dress in that pertaining to men of war. So that's what I've heard. A dress code back in the day as well was all dresses for most people back in the day. And so whether or not the culture today have pants for one or back in the day as well had pants for men and dresses for women, it don't mean that that's the dress code that God says is the right dress code. It's a dress code that the culture has created to better identify the sexes. So, because back in the day, both of them used to wear the same dress. And I know a lot of people wouldn't even... I guess there was... Sure, there was a way to wear the dress, to attire yourself in the day, back in the day. But it was still not a pants and a dress, a separation for male and female. So that's why for me, in the most jumblest form that I can express it, that's why to me dress code isn't a masculine or feminine thing. I think when it comes to your dressing, you should be as modest as you can be. And if you're not raised a particular way, then modesty is something that God have to inspire in you, I suppose. But when your conscience tell you about immodesty, or I would say your conscience highlight immodesty to you by the fact that you feel ashamed, the fact that you feel uncovered, I think. So whenever you feel uncovered, it could be a sign that you're immodest. It could be, not saying it is, but it could be highlighting the fact that you're not as clothed as you could be, probably. But I'm rambling along to just say that there are different expressions to masculinity and femininity. Both sexes can be expressing sadness, but that expression of sadness might not look the same. Gesticulations might be different. I don't know. I would think so. No, I don't know. I would think that gesticulation is a form of masculinity. How you carry yourself is a masculine thing. How you carry yourself is a feminine thing. You can be interested. So I guess an example would be, you can be interested in me. You can see me from behind the screen. You know, you're watching me on your phone and you like me. It's not a feminine thing to approach me with lyrics like, yo, I like you, you know, and please, I hope I can add a female voice there. But the feminine thing wouldn't be to say, yo, I like you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I do think so. Or at least for me, it wouldn't be nice. I wouldn't receive it nicely. I'd feel like you're trying to, like, bad me up. But a feminine approach could be suggestive. Suggesting something. Men suggest as well. I don't know if there is a... that's interesting. You can let me know what your thoughts are on what defines masculinity. I guess the simplest answer would be a male acting out traits that humans experience. That would be what masculinity would be. Assuming the position that you were meant to have. Assuming the roles, the requirements, the things that you have to do. I will just stop answering this question. What does it mean to be a good man? So Justin says, I don't know. I don't know. I hear people use this term and I assume it means they've had good interactions with the man. I don't believe men are good or bad. Men do good and they do bad. And hopefully in life, hopefully in the end, your good outweighs your bad. So, Justin probably never go into a church ever in his entire life. Never open a Bible, ever. And so we hope that Justin finds the Lord. Amen. Larry says, a good man lives by his conviction and does not wave from his moral values. Staying true to oneself is quintessential. You see how I can say that? Anyone else have that in the bag? Alright, sorry. To defining goodness. Staying true to oneself is quintessential to defining goodness. However, cultural, societal, and religious beliefs all have a hand in how the word good is used. Now, I'm going to go off on a tangent, and I hope you will stay with me on this tangent that I'm going down. I'll try and make it like a minute. My personal belief is that societal beliefs and cultural beliefs, political beliefs, they all are your religious beliefs. They all should be. Not that they should be, they will be your religious beliefs. So, I hope that makes sense. I hope I don't have to explain it fully now. Probably I've explained it before. But that's a belief that I have. So there's no difference between your culture and your religion. There's no difference between the politics that you politic and your religion. There's no difference between the society that you live in and the religion that you hold. Or there shouldn't be, I should say. Because religion is a way of life, and a way of life is your culture. And societies are formed from cultures, or one culture is generally the overarching culture of that society. When you say society is breaking down is when they have many cultures that trying to coexist, because you can't have many cultures existing because all cultures have differences, and some of those differences go against one culture. So that's why eventually there will be one culture in the world, or at least that's what they're going for, one culture where we'll all say the same thing, we'll all do the same thing, we'll all strive for the same thing, because diversity isn't good. It isn't good, because diversity will lead to separation and I'm trying to find that word. Unions aren't formed from differences. Differences don't unify. Similarities unify. So a union won't be formed by whatever. I said I'd make it 1 minute. I don't know why I'm still rambling on this. So yeah, back to Mike. However, I'm going to edit this to get back to Mike. I believe integrity as at the heart of being a good man. I believe integrity is at the heart of being a good man. This means standing by what you believe as well as keeping your word to others. The man you are when no one's looking kind of thing. Forgive me for that moment of illiteracy. But I like this. I don't know if it make you a good man. I like that response. Nick says, to balance between masculinity and femininity, striking a balance of emotional regulation and emotional understanding with strong, sometimes aggressive approaches to maintain your core values. That's big. It took me some time to break down that statement.
2 seconds later.
This thing of masculine and feminine, masculinity and femininity, interesting to me as a topic, because I don't know if I don't think as a man you balance masculine and feminine. I don't think so. I don't know. Never seen it. Don't care. I don't know. I don't think you balance it. I think your expressions, because you both, as a male and a female, you both experience the same emotions. Your expression of those emotions might be different, but I think that a female can express anger the same way a man can express anger, especially if the man is a weaker man. Especially if the woman is an older woman to a child, she can express that anger the same way a man could express that anger. So I think what make it masculine and feminine is the sexes that are acting out the emotional blahs. But what does it mean to be a good man? I think it would mean being a man. I think being a good man would be being a man. Simple answer would be, being a true man. Not being a man for the sake of being seen as a man, but being a man because you know that this is your role and your responsibility. This is your job. This is your duty. And so you're not doing it for the fame, the attention, the eyes. You're doing it for the impact that it can have on those around you. I sound like a genius. But yeah, I think that would be a good definition for a good man. Get it? A good definition. So with that being said, thank you for watching this part 2. So you see that is not one question per part. We're at question 5 for the next part. So hope you stick around. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that notification bell and hit the like button if you like what we're discussing. If you don't like it, smash that dislike button. I can see when you dislike the video. You might not be able to see it, but I can see it. So smash that dislike button. And until next time, it was amazing speaking to you, and hope you have a wonderful week. And until next time, I don't know.